Hey there, welcome along to this very short training about effective communication. So let's start with a definition of effective communication. It's clear and a concise exchange of information. That is what clear communication is, to ensure there's clear and concise exchange of information. And it ensures that the message is accurately conveyed and understood by the audience. Because remember, you can be clear, you can be concise, but if the audience don't understand what you're saying, then you have not communicated. Now, why do we want to communicate clearly? Well, it enhances the credibility and the professionalism of you, the presenter. If you can be clear when you present, people are going to say, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. It allows you to get a better understanding and to build engagement with the audience. So they will understand what you're saying better. And because of that, they will engage more. And of course, the idea of communication and effective communication is that you achieve your outcomes and you develop a positive business image or a positive business relationship with your particular audience. So let's just have a look at the key elements of effective communication. Well, the first thing, and I always say it, is use simple and clear language to convey the information. You don't have to use big fancy words. I can't even think of a big fancy word to describe that, but you don't need to do that. You want clear and simple language. And if possible, avoid jargon and technical terms, unless you're speaking to a technical audience. But if you're speaking to, let's say you go out to a university to talk to them about, astrophysics, and they are first year science students, maybe you want to not use as much technical language as you would use in your daily basis. Now, one of the things I would say is you want to always think about body language and you want to maintain eye contact with your audience, because this shows that you are talking to an audience and not just talking to people in general. And a lot of the times, if you nod, then people will nod back. So, that's a good point, isn't it? And I start to nod. And one of the other things that you want to do when you are presenting is ask questions to ensure that the audience have been listening. Again, if it's appropriate, depending on your presentation, because a lot of times in a meeting you might stop and you might say, okay, any questions on this? You also want to make sure that you don't stand like that with your body language, okay? So that you're open, that you're moving your hands, etc. And you can use particular hand gestures to emphasize key points. Now, be careful, because I just noticed myself that I was saying like that, use effective hand gestures. But in different languages and in different cultures, that might mean like, hey, what are you saying to me? Okay, so be very careful with that as well. One of the things that you can also do is mirror and match your audience. So, if you want your audience to really listen, you can lower your voice and you can slow down. And if there is somebody else on the panel who speaks very fast and you're presenting with them, well, you could match and mirror their particular voice patterns as well. When you present in this way, you're going to have an impact on your business. Why? Because it's going to demonstrate your expertise and your professionalism. The other thing that you can do, and especially when you're presenting and you want to show people that you know what you're talking about, give them evidence-based data. So rather than just saying, we increased our sales by 15%, show a graph, show evidence of that. And always make sure that you're consistent in your messaging. So what do I mean by that? Well, down to the language that you use. If you're using simple language, you don't oversimplify the language at one point and then complicate it in the next part. You also want to make sure that when you are speaking, even though you're going to keep it simple, you use persuasive narratives. Okay. And you match the narrative to the goals, to the challenges, and to the particular audience. If I'm talking to managers, I will speak in more managerial speak, keeping it simple. And if I'm speaking to, for example, somebody who is into self-help, I will speak the language that they understand. And More on that in my different courses. If you're interested, just reach out to me. You can use visual aids to help you with storytelling, but you also can use visual language to engage the person's senses. If you have any social proof, now when I say social proof, I mean if you're talking about a product, if you're talking about a service, you can say, and this is what our client said, and this will validate your particular product or service. Now, here's a very, very important aspect of communication, and it is communication barriers. And you want to be very careful of cultural nuances and customs that a certain culture may have. As I said, going like that may mean that I'm angry when I just want to say, I just want a little bit more of your time. And people just see that as that gesture and they think I'm being angry with them. By using simple and clear language, everybody will understand you. Okay, because remember, if you, and this can happen in your own native language, you want to make sure that everybody understands you, because here's a tip. The meaning of the communication is the response it gets. So if somebody looks at me puzzled and they don't understand what I'm saying, I can't blame them for not understanding what I'm saying. I have to blame myself for not being clear enough. In this day and age, with the way we communicate now, always make sure that you know how to use the technology, because you don't want to decide, oh, I'm going to use the whiteboard in Zoom, and then it doesn't work because you've never used it before. And if you have a presentation and for some reason the screen won't share, which has happened sometimes when I upgrade my operating system, I've just set certain permissions. Well, have a backup plan, okay? Don't just let that stop you. Always make sure that you have a backup plan. What else do we have? Well, I think we always need to listen actively and empathetically when others are speaking or if they ask a question. You want to make sure that you address any questions or objections and support your answers. So, why did you decide to do it that way? Because this is the way I do it. No, well, I decided to do it this way because evidence shows, etc. And always acknowledge and respond to questions, because you don't want to ignore a question, even if it's not a great question. You can say, well, Richard, I think that question is best suited for another time. So just to conclude, effective communication has a huge impact in business, whether you're a native or non-native English speaker, or even in your native language. In order to be effective, the key is to be clear and concise. And what you should do next is take proactive steps to practice your communication. And if you're not very confident in communicating, don't just wait until you have that big presentation to start to communicate. Reach out to me, talk to me, and I can help you with different aspects of your communication. Because investing in yourself, investing in your communication is really going to help. Now, if you want to find out more information, just drop me a message below or send me a direct message, or if we're not connected, let's connect.